Morning, everyone. Welcome to EISCP webinar series on World Environment Day. So today we are going to discuss on environmental design for sustainability. So we have with us Dr. Deepika Shetty, who is a professor at Manipal Institute. So I welcome Deepika Shetty, madam. So we are continuously conducting series of webinars as well as workshops. So today, on the account of World Environmental Day, along with Chanakya University, we are conducting a workshop, so which focus on environmental design for sustainability. So World Environmental Day is celebrated every year on June 5th for continuing the tradition, which is established by United Nations in the year 1974 to encourage worldwide awareness and action for protecting the environment. So World Environmental Day, which aims to inspire and mobilize the people worldwide to act against the pollution and also promote a cleaner and healthier planet for future generation. So this year we have a theme on land restoration, desertification, and drought resilience. So which clearly says, as an individual, we have a lot of role to play to protect our Mother Earth, and also we need to ensure that our Mother Earth is covered with a green cover. And as an individual, we should also take part in protecting our Earth and avoid the desertification as well as drought. So we will celebrate World Environment Day to demonstrate our support for environmental protection. So with this brief introduction, I welcome Dr. Deepika Shetty, so who is uh, currently professor at Manipal Institute. So she did her PhD in architecture as well as urban design from the Manipal University. So she did her graduation from CEPT, Center for Environment Planning and Technology, Ahmedabad. She did her Bachelor of Architecture from Kamala Raheja Vidyanidhi Institute of Architecture. She has published so many research articles in peer-reviewed journals. So she has published 17 articles. So she had guided many students as well as researchers. So she was a former director for Manipal School of Architecture Planning from the July 2018 to October 2021. She has handled various projects. So she has worked on innovative design for village development. She has worked on a project for the Gram Panchayat, Ministry of Gram Panchayat Raj, Government of India. So she has developed a Gram Panchayat special development project. So her famous article is God's Own Urbanity. So with this brief introduction, I wholeheartedly welcome Dr. Deepika Shetty for sharing her vast experience in environmental design for sustainability. So over to you, madam.
So thank you. And Bharat, it has been a pleasure working with Sir. My journey towards environment started with Sir in 2018 when I joined his course on environment design, which gave me a lot of awareness of my responsibility as an architect towards the cause of environment. So after that, I have made very formative steps, I would say not complete as yet, towards creating a sustainable form of built environment. So I'm sharing my experience from those exercises and experiments that I've done over the past few years with some kind of thumb rule or a structure of decision making in the built environment. So I will start with the scale of a building or a small site to the level of urban development or habitat, I would call it. Kindly be patient with the various facets I will explore of the built environment in relation to environment design and sustainability. So I thank TVRAMACHANDRA sir both for the knowledge or the backbone of my thought, as well as this opportunity I got to share my understanding and work. I will look at these thumb rules which has come from Sir's training itself on what do you mean by sustainability. One is to establish limits. So I look at, even in built environment, how to reduce, reuse, and create a circular economy. I don't want to use the term recycle, but I would say, can we look at circular economy in all the resources that we develop? So this is establishing limits of consumption in a built environment. Second is to identify what are the threats and opportunities, and I want to highlight in the built environment, especially waste management. Something that can be reduced as well as recycled should be looked at very carefully. Third is to improve quality of life. Like I said, built environment is for human habitat. So I think every person here, we want a healthy and well-being. Well-being is both psychological and physical well-being. So how to improve quality of life is the ambition of the built environment. Fourth is to identify environment sound technology. Now, how do you measure this? Is through carbon and water footprint. Be very conscious of every decision you make for the built environment. What is the carbon and water footprint for that decision, both in terms of installation or capital cost, as well as the maintenance cost? And finally, how do we say that our resources are well managed is to see that it is not getting exhausted and it is being replenished or recycled as much as possible, and in fact improved. So we in economics say the balance, bank balance, or how the resource balance is maintained so that our future is secure in terms of our habitat. So these are our goals whenever we look at design goals for sustainability. Now, I think in built environment especially, these two nutrient cycles are very crucial, or we make a difference both in water cycle and carbon cycle. If we look at the issues we are facing in our urban or developed areas, is the water management as well as the urban heat island effect. And these two cycles are the key for this cause or this effect. So if we can be very conscious about these two cycles, and I would say in built environment, the amount of green and water bodies in our design, as well as the percolation that we allow and how we manage the wastewater. So these are the key for water cycle in terms of carbon footprint, eco-friendly resources, as well as maintaining the green cover and radiated energy for the built environment. So these are, and equity in the distribution will be another issue, that where do we contribute towards a society and how much are we being greedy about managing the resources. So these are our design goals in terms of resource management. So now whenever we say development, we should ask the question, what is it replacing? So normally the natural environment is being replaced. And then we are asking what form would be best to replace the natural environment. So I say that, can we bring a system of development which is as close as possible to the natural ecosystem? May not be same, but at least similar. So understanding the existing natural system and bringing the designed or the artificial form of habitat as close to it would be the second goal. And the third goal is to the impact. Now, when we make changes, there is an impact on the environment. How much can we replenish the impact of that development? These are the questions we should ask whenever we design. Second is, whenever we design, where is the raw material coming from? How do we ensure food security? How do we ensure water security? And how do we ensure energy? Because any habitat, we say the basic needs of the man is food, water, and energy. If these three are not satisfied, we cannot call it a sustainable human habitat. So we should be building systems in the design which will manage these three well. And finally, that is for resource management. And finally, when it comes to management of the habitat, whenever we have a human habitat, there will be waste. So how is it managing the waste? How well are we maintaining the environment and not polluting it? And how do we create the energy as well as use the energy efficiently. And finally, how are we giving the services, be it land services, be it water services, be it energy or electrical services, various services that we put in the built environment, how are we managing its consumption and management? So all these are the questions we should ask. If we don't ask these questions and we have the ambition of development like US or Europe or even China, you will see the building footprint or the energy footprint, carbon footprint is not sustainable. So we should not aim for mimicking this. Rather, we should develop our new systems. India is in a better way presently than them in terms of carbon footprint. However, we are not going the right direction. So in future, this is not assured. And this has to be assured when we ask the question of built environment. Now, I will also include my understanding, which I have gained from the traditional Indian built environment or heritage that we have for every type of land, climate, and terrain. So I would like to emphasize that there are a lot of examples in our heritage where we can learn the management of these questions that I've raised in terms of habitat design, water management. So this is in Barkur, which is in the area where I stay, Udupi, and it's a 12th century to 16th century capital town built during the Aluvas to Vijayanagara times. And you will see a very nice scientifically made water management system and a neighborhood design. What it is and how it is, I'll explain it further, but this is how it looks in terms of terrain and the building environment. Now, let's get into the scale of an individual build. So if I have to say that when I look at this traditional dwelling, it's a dwelling come elaborate temple where an important person of the neighborhood was staying. And this is a typical courtyard typology with verandas and courtyards. And if you see, this is the north side is the front, which is the highest height. And the thermal imaging was done. And just by looking at material, you will see that there is 12 to 15 degree difference in the radiated heat from the material. And in terms of tarred road and concrete metal roof, the difference came almost to 15-20 degrees between the ambient temperature and the radiated heat. So every decision we take in terms of covering the material for our convenience leads to that much urban heat island effect and the transmitted heat energy. Being in a tropical climate, this is very crucial for comfort and consumption of heat for comfort. So, and of course, there are other studies we did for wind circulation and all that. I will get into it later. So from these lessons, if I have to put some rules of building design, which I did with my second year BArch students, we do first profiling of the user and their patterns of use. And in the patterns of use, we convert it into area requirements. Now here the thumb rule is, if the activity can be done in an open space, we should allot that activity in the open space. Don't build when that activity can be done in open space. For example, a basketball court can be in open space or enclosed. So if you are environment friendly, keep it in open space. A lot of congregation, community and recreational activities of meeting, even coffee or small time leisure activities, sitting and chatting can be in open space rather than built space. Instead of a cafe, coffee day shop for leisure, I would say make it coffee shop along the open space and create that comfort which we need for those community activities. So the first thumb rule is convert the requirement of activity as much as possible to open space. And in a place like Manipal, where the heat and rain is very high, the semi-open space, that is only with columnar space and roof, would be the ideal space for habitat. And in terms of creating comfort, the courtyard typology, the veranda typology, after open space would be the space. And finally, the built and the enclosed space should be the minimum required for security, storage purpose like office space, storerooms, account space, and so on. So with this thumb rule, if we go for dividing the use into open, semi-open, and closed spaces, that is the first step for built environment. Next is we arrange this activity area in such a way that to connect it, that is, we have to connect it with roads for supply and vehicular access and emergency vehicles and so on. So there are three rules that we followed. That is reducing the paved surfaces as much as possible. So we made different arrangement as per the privacy and the allotment of areas for different activities, and saw that the amount of area used for paved surfaces can be reduced as much as possible. We kept most of it unpaved, and which allows maximum percolation as well as reduces radiated heat. Second is the open space between buildings should be having maximum shade during morning and evening hours. So our second criteria, if you see, we have done shadow patterns in morning, afternoon, and evening. So like I said, some of the activities were allotted in open spaces. So we wanted to create good, comfortable open space for various activity. Like if you want to have a congregation, it's usually morning or evening. So we looked at east sun and west sun and saw that the open spaces would be comfortable during the hours. Similarly, if it is an afternoon lunch break, we created courtyard spaces which would be smaller open spaces surrounded by a building, which will create shadows. So like that, with shadow pattern analysis, we managed to see that most of the open spaces which we wanted to allot for activities would be in shade. Similarly, we stacked the buildings in such a way that we used minimum area of the site for built environment. So we used the building footprint, that is, we called it ground coverage for building, as less as possible, and rest of the area we left it for natural systems like water management, waste management, as well as rainwater harvesting. So out of the options, we selected the one which is most efficient. So if you see here, the amount of paved was kept to just one round and not going all over the site. Similarly, the parking or the vehicular traffic was cut off in the beginning itself, so that rest of it does not have too much of paved area for parking and such things. Similarly, the orientation of buildings and the open spaces were distributed in such a way that all these in-between spaces were usable spaces, including the courtyard and the shaded area for large-scale gathering. The Anganwadi play area again is open space with secure environment. The semi-open, open-air theater was in a place where the building gave shade in morning and evening hours. The courtyard allows the people to have recreational activity in the office with the security and the comfort even in afternoon time, so they can have their break time or lunch time over there. So we created maximum, the cafeteria is a colonnaded open space. So again, the building is not enclosed, which allows it to have maximum ventilation. And we created an area for the management of water and rainwater in such a way that the whole year's requirement of potable water, that is drinking water, is managed with either rainwater during rainy season as well as the stored rainwater during off the rainy season. And we had the recharge well, that is excess water is going into groundwater recharge, which keeps our water security for the whole area. Certain natural water bodies and ecosystems were created in such a way that even banana plantation, all this in such a way that we use it for wastewater treatment as well as groundwater recharge, and reducing urban heat island effects. Like I said, the built area creates a lot of radiated heat. So rest of the site is heavily planted to counter that radiated heat. So the services and the open spaces are used to manage the resources. Now, after this, we made sure that all the built material was such that it would reduce the carbon footprint both from type of sourcing it, so that it is locally sourced, as well as the ecological footprint. It is as less processed or artificial as possible. And third criteria was to see that the radiated heat is less, so it allows percolation of water, like the paved material or open pavers, or porous material which allows water percolation, as well as the energy footprint is very low in terms of radiated heat as well as transmitted heat. So we in walls we call it U value, as well as the paved areas we look at the porosity. So all this was taken care of when we selected material for the built environment. So just to give you an idea that after all these measures, when we look at a typical office building in an urban area, the energy per unit area per day comes to almost 2,500 kilocalories to 4,500, depending on the type of equipment you do. And the good efficient today, what we call it green building, also uses up to 1,500 or 500 to 1,000 energy kilocalories per square meter per day. However, when we look at this kind of design, where the amount of building and coverage itself is reduced, we are bringing down to 100 kilocalories per square meters per day. So the saving is exponential, which we don't even realize when we do these measures of built environment. Similarly, every material is sandwiched with some air gap, both in the roof where maximum radiation takes place, and use material which will reflect heat rather than absorb heat. So each gesture of this kind can reduce the temperature inside up to 10 degrees centigrade. Also, the reflected heat, like glass and all reflects. So the area of glass and the exposure to the reflected material like metal and all is reduced to large extent, so that the surrounding environment and open space also don't get heated. So all these systems were used to, and clay tiles. The aesthetic can be as modern, the equipments can be as modern, but these systems really make a difference in your energy consumption for comfort in the indoor environment, as well as the comfort in the outdoor environment. So after all this, then we go into the role of water bodies, how important it is to have water bodies in your building area or the built environment. So they do so many basic roles for us in a habitat. And this is not naturally occurring. This should be man-made. I would say every cluster of housing, every institution, every big township development should take care of one or more water bodies. So here it helps in microclimate moderation, groundwater recharge, flood prevention, stormwater control, and ecosystem services in terms of natural ecosystems, and irrigation and recreational activities. So when we look at our traditional thing, like I was saying in Barkur, every neighborhood of 50 to 100 houses would have one tank in the lowermost position linked to a temple which maintains the cleanliness. And if you see, the area of the temple is much smaller than the area of the tank, and the tank is lined with stone, so it maintains its boundary so that people don't encroach it. At the same time, it is highly vegetated. Stone open pavers allow the soil to be used by plant and vegetation. So this is not used for any human activity like bathing, washing, because every house and property has a well. So this tank acts as recharge pit or a place for groundwater recharge, and the consumption is through well. So this was a very good system which can be used even in modern times. So the case here we took is of Manipal Lake, where we had a quarry or clay extraction for clay tiles, and that became a pit. It was again scooped out for management of water. It was in a low-lying area, and finally today it has managed groundwater recharge of almost, if you want to call it, enough for a neighborhood of Manipal or high intensity development of it's more than 10 lakh liters. Also, it supports more than 200 and odd species of birds and lot of biodiversity. So we mentioned that if we give 40 to 50% of the lake edge for natural habitat, we will ensure that the habitat for birds and the species in and around the lake is maintained, and rest of the area for human consumption as walking, recreational, along with natural features, and make sure that the vegetation is of native type, as well as it manages the soil and stability of that environment. So we identified the species which would be beneficial around the lake. We identified the activities which could be designed along with the greenery, and we made sure that certain areas of the lake, especially 40 to 50%, was not disturbed by human activity and it was left for nature. In fact, the rest of the human activity would watch the nature and enjoy. So this kind of spaces are required in our human habitat or in dense urban active areas, so that we still enjoy nature and we create some place for animals and other species too. So next is, when we have an apartment block, can we increase the amount of greenery and manage the surface runoff as much as possible, so that we have water security as well as we reduce the heat island effect. So the simple measures we take is use fittings which consume less water. Make sure that as much as possible the roof and the surrounding area have green cover, and the higher the amount of foliage, like more height, more leaves, better will be your cooling effect and the ecological services. So with this thumb rule, we looked at building form which will allow even the vertical surfaces and building forms to have greenery, no matter how high they go. So we created typologies of forms which will allow greenery. Again, we looked at systems where it could be managed as a common space, like near staircases, in terraces, which could be accessed and given out as maintenance could be in the common maintenance rather than individual, so that many people say they don't want to maintain green because they don't have the time or money to manage it. But as a society, as a group of individuals, we can always maintain open green spaces in a built area. So all our common spaces like staircases and terraces and duct areas could have greenery and be maintained through common services and be given drip irrigation, wastewater management through those services. So that was the second step. Third step we did was, other than that, whatever area we could, we gave it for water and green space in the neighborhood. So after the cluster of buildings were designed as per the requirement, the roof, the over surfaces and management of water was given for green area. And there's these concepts of mixed use. So near the habitat, we gave types of plants, smaller creepers, bushes, which can be consumed, like vegetable, fruits, creepers, which can, so we say, or micro herbs, so that people consume it and they will maintain it because it is giving them some value. And away in the larger scale, we gave more importance to larger trees and foliage, which will increase the ecological services and groundwater recharge. So we created a format where people will feel benefited from these measures, both in short-term and long-term basis. And similarly, we had this mixed community farming in the public domain, like street or common spaces, which would allow the reducing the urban heat island effect, as well as increase food security, increase water management. So we said that can it be having community farming with the combination of trees, fruit trees, and community vegetable growing, and also create a habitat where we are used to using the open space for community, like children's play area, meeting area, interaction area, and group activity area. So this was another vision for a larger scale. This would also mean that we get exposure to the nature and create habitat within the built environment where other species are there, where we see butterflies, we see birds. Today we don't hear chirping of birds in all our built environment. Many places sound dead. They look dead because there is no other species. So we create habitats and we become part of nature in these areas. Now, even if we look at our traditional scriptures, they have given a lot of importance for certain types of trees like banyan and other ficus trees like peepal. Now, I went into the technical details and realized that these ficus trees have maximum ecological services. Again, thanks to Sir also, that I learned these kind of terms and concepts. And we realized that within 5 years, the banyan can start giving its benefit. 4 years, you have to maintain, see that it grows properly. And the propagation of it is through seed, but it's very difficult, preferably grafting, or if there is an existing peepal or banyan tree, I would say kind of maintain it or protect it, because natural propagation has stopped almost due to man-made problems. The wasp, which was required to pollinate it, is almost extinct. So natural propagation of banyan is almost stopped, and the survival rate in the human habitat for banyan is very low, because we have not given enough space for banyan to grow. However, one of the things that we can do is grafting. Like even if when banyan tree is removed, we can create another space for it and see that it is preserved, because within a per square meter of foliage, it is giving maximum benefits to us in terms of both medicinal values, reducing the urban heat island effect, disaster management in terms of preventing landslides, soil erosion, and improved water percolation, reduction of runoff, reduction of flood, reduction even in terms of cyclone, like any amount of tsunami or cyclone, if it lashes against banyan tree, the force is reduced and hence the built environment is protected. So these are kind of shields you can create in your human habitat against disaster, as well as the ecological services. So if we look at benefit in terms of numbers, just to give you a clue, just 7 feet dia, that is a small tree of banyan, can give you 12 pounds of oxygen. 6 people can breathe for an entire day in that oxygen. It stores 4 pounds of carbon. It is equal to 71 feet of travel in commercial plane. 119 gallons of water gets evaporated and percolated, which is the cooling effect of banyan tree is almost equivalent to 5 air conditioners working for 20 hours. So every time you plant a tree, this is the saving you do in terms of energy and benefits from in the microclimate. And of course, reduction in your carbon footprint. And a little grown banyan tree, which is from 7 feet to 19 feet, the exponential benefit, you can see 5 tons of oxygen, which allows 5,801 people to breathe fresh air every day. It stores 2 tons of carbon, which is, and also the cooling effect is almost equal to 5 air conditioner for 1,000 working hours. So this is the level of benefit a ficus tree, peepal tree, or banyan tree would give in your built environment. And all other benefits I've already told. I have also looked at health benefits from these trees. So whenever we do a human intervention of built, we increase the speed, we reduce the humidity, we increase the urban heat island index or temperature, we reduce the evaporative cooling, we increase the pollution, we increase the particulate matter in emissions, we affect the ozone layer, we also it leads to soil erosion, loose soil, limited rooting space, soil contamination, increase in runoff, reduced nutrients in the soil, increase in soil temperature, which again contributes to urban heat island effect, and altered groundwater table due to lack of percolation. So all this can be countered with the increase in the trees in the environment. I emphasize trees rather than bushes, lawns, and small foliage, because the tree is the only one which can counter these large scale effects of the built environment. So nowadays we calculate tree cover instead of green cover in the urban areas, so that ecological services are captured effectively or more efficiently, rather than saying any green open space is fine. No, it should be tree cover in built environment, which counters all these measures or problems of urban areas. So finally, I've kind of summarized our normal day-to-day requirements in the built environment and how we can build more sustainably. It's not a diagram, it's not a singular solution, but more of a sensitive, analyzed, or what we call it, intelligently selected decisions about how we want to live, what we want to consume, and how we can make sure that our environment is sustainable or comfortable and in the long term beneficial for our health and well-being. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed the talk. I would leave the rest of the time for question answer.
Thanks. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for sharing your vast experience. So now I request the participants, if you have any questions, we can discuss. So there is one question from my side. So what is the criteria should be used to select sustainable materials for the construction?
Okay, very important. Like I said, that itself can make a lot of impact of your U value. We call it U value if we know school science. Every material has certain capacity to reflect heat, absorb heat, and hold the heat. Okay, the transmission in concrete, if we look at it, is almost immediate. Like if the outside temperature is 30 degrees, it will transmit it inside immediately within 15 minutes or 5 minutes. The holding capacity and reflection capacity is very low. However, when we go for, say, clay tiles or a combination with air gap, we can reduce this transmitted heat almost to 80%. That means outside temperature is 30 or 40 degrees and inside temperature can be 28 degrees, up to 5 hours, the holding capacity of the material and reflection capacity of the material. So certain things like, say, mud wall would have maximum capacity to hold and cool. And also the mud wall should be breathing. That means if you know the funnel effect of the material, so large air area will be percolating through small holes of the material and then transmitted. So that also increases the cooling part of it, as well as the holding capacity of the heat of mud is very high compared to concrete or glass. So if morning sun is there, it will take almost afternoon for the material to get heated, and the transmission of the heat will be in the evening when the temperature is cooler. So effectively, you will get continuous warmth of the morning and afternoon sun in the evening when you need the heat. So the thicker the thermal mass of mud and brick, or I would say with air gap between two walls, we can create two thinner walls and create an air gap. You can make a difference of radiated heat inside your habitat or living environment in this way, if we look at conduction and reflection. Also, the roof, like I said, if we have a material like terracotta, clay tiles, or bamboo mats also have come now, which if you want lightweight, they do not reflect or radiate heat as much as metal or other sheets, which are concrete sheets, which are very high in radiated heat. They increase the temperature almost by 20 degrees in radiated heat. So we would like to reduce it by creating double layered roof and use materials which have again more reflectance and less transmission, especially roof in tropical areas. Again, orientation of building, I was telling you about shadows. So a smaller courtyard trapped with building all around will be more comfortable throughout the day, as not as much as a outside leftover space, which we call it a setback area or open space. So of course there are different techniques of design for that, but I would say a combination of shade from the vegetation, combination of material selected, and orientation of buildings and open space, these three will make your energy footprint reduce by almost 90%. And it's a huge saving both in terms of money as well as the carbon footprint that we want to be environment conscious. So I hope that summarizes what you asked for.
Thank you. Thanks so much, madam. There is one question from Paras. How can local government incentivize sustainable building practices? So what's your view on that?
Yeah, certain things have been made, like for buildings, they have included the Griha rating systems, which says that if you use this, you'll get an award or a badge that you are, awarded this green rating. How we have the any product has stars, no star rating. Similarly, buildings also have these star rating called Griha green building rating systems. That kind of puts at least the fundamentals in place. Then we have awards given for net zero sustainable design, which again promotes this, but there is no compulsion right now as per the law, which I feel should be brought. But of course, there are certain municipalities who have made rainwater harvesting compulsory. There are certain codes, ECBC, I would put a lot of emphasis to this code, which has been released in 2007, revised in 2017, called Energy Code. It is all from the products used in the built environment to the design of a built environment. All range of energy requirement is there. There is an app also for that code, which allows you to calculate your energy footprint and the measures you have taken and understanding the code in a better way, which I think is very nice code. It's a law to be followed, but not implemented well, I would say, by the states. It should be made compulsory. It's called ECBC code. It is available as an app as well as a law. So third is all the smart city and urban municipalities have been rated by the government for their SDGs. So SDG rating also will improve when we follow all these rules that I was talking about, and they score points or so the proposals or projects which the government implements, which has good rating as far the SDGs are concerned, they will get more funding and they will be awarded encouragement by the government. So these are some of the, and now recently I was involved in creating guidelines of rural development called RADPFI guidelines. In that also we have given a lot of emphasis of mapping your resources, managing the disaster management through natural systems, as well as mapping it for SDGs. So all policies, law, protection, codes, encouragement in terms of getting funding for smart city, rating of development in municipality and smart cities in terms of SDG mapping, all this, even for rural development, they have started capturing the SDG performances. So that way, all development is now being rated for its sustainable development goals. So in a way, all these systems give thrust to this kind of things that I was talking about.
Thank you, madam.
Yes.
So there is a question from Purushottam. So I request Purushottam, sir, please unmute and you can ask the question.
Madam, very great work. I mean, it looks like a dream-like project that you have taken up, and congratulations. And will this talk available on YouTube or in YouTube or in any other way?
I
That is
think
point
so,
one.
yes.
Yes,
So make sure that it will be available. I think.
no, it is available. It's already
Okay.
streaming in YouTube. So I will
Oh,
share
okay, okay.
the link in the chat box. So
Okay,
you can
okay.
go through it, sir.
That is great. Second, do you have any project report for this? Whatever you have done, that is second thing.
Not all of them, but whatever I have published and reports of government which I have worked with is available in my ResearchGate profile. So
Okay.
what I will do is including this PPT as a PDF, I'll share it. If you go to ResearchGate and in my profile, Deepika Shetty, you will get everything. In fact, more elaborate presentations if you want.
Yeah.
In fact, for
Yeah,
Sir's
yeah.
Big Conference, I had given more elaborate presentation on this topic, and you can access those things.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. And one more thing, you spoke about rural development also. Do you have any material specific to help
Yes, I can
rural
give you.
women, rural women to develop in their locality, habitat development or village development? Do you have any material that I can use, study material or teaching
So,
material like that?
one is I can tell you general rules which I have done. Again, in my research kit, I worked for Ministry of Panchayati Raj. In that, there are two projects, Gram Panchayat as well as the RAD-PFI guidelines. The link is there. You can refer to it. In that, there is a subsection for women welfare. But in case you want more details or works that I have done with more explanation, please email it to me. Whatever I have, I can share for you.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
It's very great.
Sir,
Nice
thank you.
work.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Madam, there is one more question. So I will just read out. There are actually two, three questions together. So one is, as you have highlighted the thermal comfort in urban spaces, what are your views on managing and maintaining the open spaces in Bangalore like congested city to have ideal condition for thermal comfort?
Yeah, I will answer it one by one if there are multiple. But this one,
Yeah.
thank you for asking this question because my recent thesis student did in demo area neighborhood development in Whitefield. And the diagram I showed last about open spaces is from that demonstration she did for Bangalore in Whitefield area, where existing building and existing open space could be enhanced for their ecological performance. So with that, we reduce the urban heat island effect almost by 12 degrees without new built environment, but within the existing buildings, if we go for increasing the green cover, both in the terrace as well as vertical garden, and improving the performance through change of paving material or increasing tree cover and so on, and creating bioswales and better water management, we have increased the ecological services and reduced urban heat island effect by 12 degrees. And in the new built environment, which I said, where we do the buildings also to better perform, there we have impacted up to 20 degrees in terms of urban heat island effect and increase the water holding capacity in both the situation where we can be self-sufficient without having water problems. Because what we do is all the wastewater is recycled and used for flushing, gardening, as well as basic cleaning, which is around 80 liters per day per person. Up to 20 to 30 liters is only required for potable, that is drinking and cooking. And that we use rainwater completely. So with rainwater and recycled wastewater, we can manage our day-to-day water requirement. And whatever remains in terms of excess of rainwater, we give it for groundwater recharge. So shallow wells within 5-meter depth, we can manage our water. So with this, I think we managed our vegetation, urban agriculture. Like I said, in the balconies, we grow micro herbs. In the rooftop, we grow vegetables. In the parking lots, we have these creepers, which we say tenli, mirchi, and all these creepers which grow. It shaded the parking lots as well as created consumable items. And in the play areas, we planted fruit trees, which the tree things the children and people can enjoy. So that way, we said consumable urban landscape was done for the building and immediate surrounding. And in the general open space, we put bigger trees and better, like ficus trees and all, which may not have consumable items, but their ecological services is very high. So we put that in the common spaces. So all this in Bangalore can be done. The species were identified and the economic benefits were also listed, and the operation and gained from the investment. So we said whatever investment they do, even in existing system, for this green cover can be recovered within 1.5 to 2 years, with the economic benefit of produce as well as water management.
Okay, thank you.
I hope that helps.
And yeah. And connecting question, and what should be the optimum portion of the open space to a paved surface?
See, the normal law says up to 40% is the maximum ground coverage in any built environment. But what happens is people consider only 40% for building and then they pave the rest of it. So hardly any open space is there which is unpaved or for greenery or for tree cover. So instead of doing that, like I said, it is better to go for high rise than to cover the whole site with the building. So if we can bring down the building footprint to at least 30% and rest of the area, reduce the paved area, that is the tarred surface or concrete surface, to only where it is required, to say 10% to 15% maximum. So that means of your site, 45% will only be built or paved. And even in the paving where parking lot is there or where walking is there, you can use open pavers, which allows percolation, or grass pavers, which is alternate grass and alternate paved areas. So that again improves the ecological benefit. And rest of the 60% area should be given for shrubs, trees. Where you want play areas or human activity, use trees, because below the trees you can have all kind of human activity. And where you want fencing or zoning, you can use shrubs and higher. Like I said, keep maximum foliage. I do not support lawn so much. Only when you want grounds for big games, you should have grass to hold the soil and to increase percolation so that you don't pave it. Like you have a court area or for games purposes, you have any open space, only then go for grass or a lawn. Otherwise, go for shrubs and trees, so that the soil is maintained and maximum foliage you get for a ecological benefit. So this is the thumb rule for open spaces in a immediate built environment.
Okay. Thank you so much. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to distinguished speaker Dr. Deepika Shetty for sharing her profound knowledge as well as invaluable experience with us. So your expertise as well as your passion for sustainable design might have inspired many of us and as well as the participants. So I think your work on critically and creatively explains the impact on the environment, and I think this might gives a clue for the everyone to go for the sustainable design. So I also thank our participants and as well as attendees for enthusiastically involving and as well as asking the thoughtful questions. And also your engagement has enriched the discussion and made this event a dynamic and also a kind of interactive learning experience. I think today's event is not only broadened our understanding on environmental design for sustainability, but also it has reinforced our importance of collective efforts in making the positive impact on our planet. So with this, I wish everyone happy World Environmental Day. And also it's not only celebration, it is also our responsibility to, it echoes our responsibility to protect our environment. And it is our high time to at least support our environment to ensure that maintaining the enough green spaces within our vicinity as well as the working space. So I request everyone to take part in planting and also the sensitizing the young generation for protecting the environment. So with this, we are ending the today's event. So thank you one and all for your active participation. Thank you so much, madam, for patiently answering all the questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So,
It was a pleasure,
thank you,
and
Vanada.
thank you for this opportunity. Thanks, TV Ramachandra.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.